The point of a demo is to give you a short representative sample to convince you to buy the full game. It's a bit like when I do this much of a video and then wait until you've posted 40 Great British pounds to the outside Xbox office before I do the rest of it. It's not going to work, is it? Sometimes, however, video game demos are nothing like what you get in the finished game, from the characters that you play as, to the story of the actual game, and sometimes even the way you play it. Just consider these times the demo was far from representative of what you ended up playing in the game proper.
I can fix anything, except that.
Metal is dead.
Brutal Legend is a game in which heavy metal roadie Eddie Riggs is transported to the heavy metal world to fight the forces of the demon Ormageddon. What it also is, and a fact you would be completely unaware of if you only played the game's demo, is a real-time strategy game. Starting at the very opening of the game, Brutal Legend's demo takes you through the introductory cutscene in which Eddie is transported into the realm of heavy metal, then gives you a massive battle axe. And a magic flying V guitar you can use to shock enemies and summon a hot rod from the ground. The demo leaves you with the impression of a heavy metal god of war, and to be fair, I can see why they led with that, because that sounds awesome! Decapitation! In the final game, however, once you get out of the opening few hours, the big battles all take the form of real-time strategy skirmishes, in which you select units, boost them with various buffs, and send them against your foes' armies of S&M demons and moody goths.
We gotta earn more fans before we can have that.
It's still enjoyable, but really, careful and meticulous strategic planning is the least metal thing in existence. That's why there isn't a black metal theme from Microsoft Excel. And believe me, that is not for want of trying. You try and talk to Microsoft support, because I've had no luck.
By now we all know what Final Fantasy XV was about. 4 bros road tripping around eating toast, which I think you'll agree was pretty sweet.
I think there's more to it than that, Luke.
Pretty sweet. Before Final Fantasy XV came out, however, you'd have been forgiven for thinking that it was about a small child who gets hit with some sort of shrinking ray, then runs around his parents' house hitting monsters with a squeaky toy hammer. And the reason you would have been forgiven for thinking that is because that's exactly what you do in the game's Platinum demo. The so-called Platinum demo takes place in the dreams of hero Noctis, and sees him as a young boy who wakes up when a weird fox gives him a smartphone, then starts texting him about murdering things. You and your bizarre fox friend then sprint around in this giant house, battering nightmare creatures and occasionally tootling around in a tiny car. Oh, and sometimes you control the weather and turn into a random animal. Needless to say, this is not a broadly representative taster of the main game of Final Fantasy XV, which is a sprawling open-world RPG about an adult Noctis and his backup dancers going on an epic quest to reclaim his kingdom. It's actually not a children's adventure game in which a plucky kid is accidentally shrunk by his scientist father, Rick Moranis. And the demo doesn't even reference the toast! You've gotta lead with the toast, guys, or else you're never gonna sell any copies.
I've come up with a new recipe.
Can't wait to try it.
Hot off the massive success of the original Metal Gear Solid, and with fans clamouring for more adventures from gaming's gruffest headband wearer Solid Snake, the demo for Metal Gear Solid 2 hit all the right notes. The demo included a good chunk of the game's tanker chapter, which, if you've played Metal Gear Solid 2, you will remember as the chapter in which you play as Solid Snake. It is a lot like Metal Gear Solid 1, only a lot better looking and cooler.
Freeze.
This is great, you might have thought to yourself. I can't wait to play a whole new game of this as my favourite game character, Solid Snake. But suddenly, Kojima! Yes, as you'll also remember, if you played Metal Gear Solid 2, after the Tankard chapter, you are suddenly in control of Raiden, a character so initially hated after his appearance in this game that the series openly mocked him in Snake Eater. Then had all of him from the jaw down thrown away and replaced with robot parts in Metal Gear Solid 4.
I am lightning. The rain transformed.
Metal Gear Solid 2 did still turn out well, but anyone expecting another Solid Snake adventure would have been sorely disappointed. Still, they learned their lesson and went back to using all Snake variants as the protagonists in the main series. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, on the other hand, showed that the developers are starting to treat Raiden with a bit more sober respect.
Adios, amigos.
Oh, never mind.
Wait. This is all wrong. This isn't the Stanley Parable.
8.
This is a game where you press a button
8.
and it says 8.
8.
Not only is the Stanley
8.
Parable not a game about continuously pressing the number 8, I can guarantee that this button does not appear anywhere in the main game.
The Stanley Parable is one of the most postmodern, meta-jokey games in existence, so it stands to reason that the game's demo wouldn't just be a straightforward chunk of the game to tempt you into buying the full thing. Wait, let me guess, it's a scratch and sniff card of smells inspired by the game. Oh, it's only playable on the Atari Lynx. No, it's an ARG of photos of the game which are hidden around your hometown beneath traffic cones. No, in fact, the Stanley Parable's demo is a meta-commentary on video game demos because of course it is. In it, you meet the game's narrator, who takes you on a tour of the process behind making the Stanley Parable demo, walking around, opening doors, offering you sample choices.
How fascinating. Did you know that 94% of all people who select that particular button are sexual predators?
But 6% aren't, right? Good? Throughout the course of the demo, the narrator does a pretty thorough job of deconstructing video game demos in general, laying bare all of the psychological techniques they use to try and snare potential customers, from emotion and discovery to hollow compliments designed to flatter the player into buying the full game. It might only be me who noticed that though, because I am great at this demo.
Of all the people I know who are playing this exact demo at this exact moment and standing in this exact room, your performance is easily in the top 5,000.
See? The demo carries on like this until it becomes apparent to both you and the narrator that neither of you really knows what the Stanley Parable is about, and this whole demo is a waste of time for both of you.
Imagine if this had been the demo, what would you have been thinking? You'd have left with no idea what the Stanley Parable is about, none whatsoever.
So although you will come away from the Stanley Parable demo even more confused as to what the Stanley Parable is about, at least you got an excellent dance party out of it.
Please step into the dance perimeter. Please perform a dance.
Here we go!
Sonic Unleashed is considered to be the low point of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, which, whew, is saying something. That said, before it came out, early word on Sonic Unleashed was good, thanks in part to a demo in which Sonic sped his way through a sun-drenched Mediterranean town, running, looping, bouncing off springs and enemies, and seamlessly switching between 2 and 3D with a fluid sense of speed.
Feeling good! Woo! Feeling good! Woo!
The problem was, the demo only told half the story because Sonic Unleashed was split into both daytime and nighttime sections. The daytime sections were the sunny, fun, fast platforming sequences as sampled in the demo, while the nighttime sections, for some reason, turned Sonic into a huge beast-like monster with increased strength and stretchy arms called a werehog. But if he's a hedgehog, shouldn't his beast form be something else? Shouldn't a werehog be when a human turns into a hedgehog during a full moon? Oh, questions about the menu. Right, I'll just have a double pepperoni. These werehog sections of Sonic Unleashed were slow, dark, brawling sequences, in which Sonic would lumber around in werehog form, beating up EDM lizards with his weird Stretch Armstrong arms. It's not what comes to mind when you think of Sonic the Fun High-Speed Hedgehog, which is probably why they kept it out of the game's demo. A better idea would have been to keep it out of the finished game as well, but I'm sure you know what you're doing, Sonic team.
Boo. Where did you find this guy?
Give me a break, Pete.
Hey, I only work with professionals.
Resident Evil 7 was a departure for the survival horror series in taking you from a third-person perspective to a first-person perspective, putting you directly into the shoes of your player character and letting you get right up close and personal with the horror, whether you wanted to or not. This was illustrated in the pre-release demos for Resident Evil 7, in which you played as both an unnamed protagonist and, via a VHS tape, Clancy Jarvis, a camera operator for a paranormal investigation TV show who breaks into the Baker Mansion along with his crewmates to do a bit of location scouting and panicky dying.
Andre, where are you, man?
Though the first-person view is representative of the real game and the demo contains part of the house you visit in the game, the overall vibe of the demo is a lot more similar to games like PT and Outlast, with the playable characters being mostly defenseless. Also, the demo featured a lot of supernatural horror, such as the ghosts that appear throughout the house, and inscrutable puzzles, such as using a dummy finger to solve murders. Resident Evil 7 is excellent, but it is also, once it gets going, an action horror game in which you'll be using shotguns, chainsaws, machine guns, and even grenade launchers to dispatch hordes of monsters and giant bosses. That's very much not the vibe we got from that demo, which is a shame because I bet old Clancy there would have loved a chainsaw.
In Always Sometimes Monsters, you play as a hapless loser who has no job, no money, and has just been invited to the wedding of the love of their life, who is marrying someone else. You know, classic video game fantasy escapism. It's a game full of tough choices, moral dilemmas, and heartbreaking decisions, as you try to keep your head above water, beset by money problems, personal problems, and endless jerks. The demo for Always Sometimes Monsters, however, has you play as a games journalist who goes to the launch event for Always Sometimes Monsters. As such, you walk around the demo room eating tiny hamburgers and chatting to people. You can play the game here if you like, or if you'd rather, you can leave after barely touching it. I would like to clarify that this is not how anyone here conducts themselves at a press event. We always stay at least until all the tiny hamburgers are gone. Once you've left the launch event, you head to your office to write a review of the game based on your minimal time with it. Ouch, but I mean, this is only a virtual review, it's not like the developers will ever see it. Oh man, now I feel bad. Look, in my defense, there was not a single monster in that demo. More like, actually, never monsters. Oh, that's good. I wish I hadn't already submitted the review. I could have used that.
Alright, well, you can consider that the representative demo, a little slice of Outside Xbox there, to prime you for yet more Outside Xbox. So why not go invest in the full game, by which I mean playlist, by clicking up here. Or if you'd like something else, which, you know, just take our word for it, is also excellent, then go for Outside Extras playlist of videos down here. There's no demo, but they are very good.